take us back to January 11th, 2023.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to take you back 1 year before that, because that's really when things started to fall apart for me. In January 2022, I had come to terms with a drinking problem. I am a 42-year-old mommy of two. I am successful. I have a career. I have a home. I have a family. And I have a drinking problem. How did that happen? What was once a, kind of social casual pastime, rite of passage in college and then in my 20s and then, just kind of socially acceptable into my late 20s and into my 30s. And I found that my drinking had gotten progressively worse, and that I was using it to numb in ways that no longer reflected like, oh, I'm just doing this for fun. I was really doing it for numbing, right? I was doing it to escape. I was high achieving, overachieving, lots of pressure, lots of anxiety as I was, getting into this kind of new space in my life. And I found one day that I was not able to function without alcohol. It's so interesting because the idea that we have of what an alcoholic is, right? Or somebody with a drinking problem is. My dad was an alcoholic, right? He lost his family. He couldn't hold down a job. He died when he was 55 years old, virtually alone. He had thrown his whole life away. That is kind of the idea of what we think of as a drinking problem or an alcoholic or an addiction. And I think that there needs to be something to be said about a drinking problem being a problem when it no longer serves you and you don't like who you are when you're doing it. And that's really the point that I had come to, right? I was a binge drinker, so I couldn't have one glass of wine. I'd have 2 bottles of wine, right? I could go the whole week and be completely fine and work and take my boys to soccer practice. But, one night I could, find myself the next morning, like, how did I get here? And it had progressed to this point. And I had come to terms with that on so appropriate on the 1st of January 2022, right after a banger New Year's Eve. And I was like, this is not working and I need to change my life around. And so I spent the next year in recovery. I quit drinking. I didn't do AA or anything like that. I really turned inward spiritually. I surrendered to God in a very, I didn't know what else to do. I've always been a spiritual person, but in this moment I was like, this isn't working in my life. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to quit. I don't know that I can. And I surrender, please save me. And so I spent an entire year healing from that. That's my first crack, if you will, right? As I'm about to be broken wide open. And I spent a year in recovery. I come into January 2023. I feel great. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I'm clear. My mind is clear. My spirituality is stronger than it's ever been. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I am solid, rock solid. And I get a diagnosis of breast cancer. Almost exactly a year to my sobriety date. And I had really thought that the year prior, that crack was being glued together, right? I was fixing it all, and I was about to embark on some great, awesome journey, and I was going to be rewarded for all the work that I had put into myself to really transform my life. And then breast cancer. And not just breast cancer, a very aggressive and rare form of breast cancer, where my doctor said, you will die if we do not get this out of your body. I have 2 little boys at home, right? No, I didn't just it's interesting. Initially I was like, I didn't just do all of this work to just get breast cancer. And as a faithful person, I recognized that, oh yes, I did do all of this work to get breast cancer. because had I not done that work, I wouldn't have been able to be ready for that fight.